Hi y'all. So now, finally, I'm gonna get around to changing out these absolutely dead batteries with new ones. It's taking forever to get to this point, but life happens. So I'm gonna talk about how to replace them and things to look for along the way, and hopefully I can give you all a few tips and tricks on how to do it. All right, let's go. All right, first things first, we gotta get the seat pan out of the way. Now, if you've seen my other video, then you know about some of the changes I made to this cart, but I'll go ahead and recap some of that as we go. So obviously I have an amplifier in here for some of the stereo speakers, which I do have on quick disconnects for speaker and for power. And then I have this loop. Now, this loop, everybody really honestly should put this on the seat pan of their cart. This, you grab this with one hand and the side handle with the other, and the seat pan is so much easier to remove. I highly recommend doing this. This old piece of seat belt strap, or if you have something laying around, or whatever you have. So that's what this is. So let's get this seat pan off. And that's going to be a two-handed operation, so I'll need to put the camera down. So let's get this off. There we go. Much better. Now, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of cuts in this video. There's a lot going on. I'm going to have to do this in segments. I'm also not going to be doing this all in one day. It's about 10:30 in the morning, and it's already about 90 degrees. It's really hot. I'm not going to be able to do this, and I can't get any audio with the fan going, and that fan even doesn't really help that much. It's so hot and humid right now. And fancy editing takes a lot of time that I don't have. So bear with me. I'm sure you understand. Life happens again. So, first things first. Now we got to disconnect everything on these old batteries. So, there are lots of ways of doing that. You can take pictures or whatever. What I did, grab this. I just made a really simple diagram. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than this. So, negative out to the controller, positive out to the solenoid, and then showing the interconnect of the different batteries, and then how the batteries are oriented. Notice positive and negative, negative and positive. That's because you want these jumper wires to be as short as possible, and when you put it all back together, it needs to match, or your current cables aren't going to reach. So you just need to keep track of that. Pretty straightforward. Now, in looking at my cables at least, and every car is going to be different. I clearly understand that. So, now, take all this with a grain of salt, of course. So, these interconnect cables, as far as I can tell, are all the same length, or at least close enough. This back cable over here is much longer, so that should be pretty easy to put all that together. And we'll go ahead and get all this taken apart. And of course, the part I'm not really looking forward to is 70-pound batteries times 12. So again, get this disconnected, and then we start tearing this down. And hopefully I can get these batteries changed out without exploding my vertebrae all over the garage floor. Alright, next step. Okay. I've only just gotten started here. I haven't undone all the bolts yet. Of course, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the main pack power. So make sure everything's killed, although it is. That's just one thing that's different than a car. You don't have a chassis ground. Everything's isolated just to the pack, so you don't have to worry about anything accidentally happening with that. But still, you just want to be careful. I'll take the main off first. That way you've already killed the circuit and you're safe for everything else. And by these magnetic holders are awesome. Everybody should have one. You get them Harbor Freight, just a few bucks. You don't need anything fancy. Okay. Get those out of the way. I'll go ahead and take this first cable off. I'll talk about it a little bit, and I'm not going to bore you with taking the rest of the cables off. That would be pointless. So this is when you really want to You really want to inspect these cables. Now, depending on where you get your batteries and what kind of warranty they offer, they may tell you we are not going to honor your battery warranty unless you replace your cables. that's going a little far in my opinion. I mean, yes, ideally when you replace the pack, replace your cables. That's the best thing you can do. But as long as cables, you know, say you don't hear anything, I don't hear anything either. So don't worry about it. It's not that there's noise and the microphone's not picking it up. No, there's not any noise. So there's no crackling. Well, a little bit you can maybe hear from outside, but nothing from this. The ends look really good. They're not corroded. I mean, this red coating is an anti-corrosion. God, this thing would stay focused. That's an anti-corrosion coating, which I have some spray. That's all it is, just spray on your terminals. You can also use dielectric grease, which is probably what I'm going to do, because I think that dielectric grease stays in place better than this stuff. But either one will work. But yeah, these cables, at least this particular cable, is in fantastic shape. So yeah, why replace it? But yeah, if they're starting to look old, if the insulation is starting to crack, the ends are getting really corroded, or again, you flex them and you can kind of hear them cracking. The insulation may look fine, but heat cycles, the wire, multi-strand wire inside, may be starting to crack, which means the internal resistance of this wire is going to go really high. It's going to get really hot and cause all kinds of problems. You don't want that. But yeah, like I say, this cable's perfect. There's no reason to replace that. So yeah, so now I'm just gonna get all these cables off. Be right back. Okay, got all the old battery cables out. I got just a hand wire brush, not a drill power, just by hand, and I don't want to mangle these too much. And got them all cleaned up, and all these look great. I mean, practically new, so I'm not going to worry about those. Oh, and the dielectric grease. This is what I use. You can get this at pretty much any auto parts store. And actually, I've been using this a lot because I've been cleaning up some connections on the Chevelle, and I've been doing a lot of little stuff on the Chevelle. So I'm hoping to have an update video at some point when I actually have enough to do a video on. But just hang tight with me, and you'll see more about that later, hopefully. Now, got all the interconnect cables off. Now you just need to get the mounting bolts undone. Just with my car, it's different than yours. This stud is a little shorter. I had to cut this one down to clear the amplifier because that's where it's at on the seat. It clears it by plenty, and you see how plenty of thread left. I'm not exactly sure why these studs are so dang long, but that's that. Okay, so I'm going to go get a deep well socket now, and we'll get those out. All right, next step. Okay, so now this center support, got that out, and the wires for the tail lights, just disconnected that, some twist ties, tie those up out of the way. I used a bungee cord to help hold this flap up out of the way. These wires, just again, some twist ties, temporarily hold them out of the way. So now all the batteries are clear, ready to yank them out. So let's, before I destroy my back, let's talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to do this over here at these other batteries. I'm going to have more room to mess around. Okay, so when I bought the batteries, it gave me this handle strap, which works great. Now, it might be hard to see. There's a little tab right there on the side of the battery. That hooks into on both sides. Okay. There's no really wrong way to do this, but one thing to think about is put this handle on. You can kind of see the angle. It's going to pull. So as you carry it, you're pulling the strap towards kind of the end of the hook. So kind of the way I do it is I'll run it from the inside. So now when I'm pulling it, see as the angle comes in, you're actually pulling more towards kind of the throat of the hook. It's a little stronger that way, a little more stable in my mind, but it really, it could go either way. Now, like I say, they gave me the handle. Now, if you get your batteries and they don't have one to give you or to buy, or you just need to move batteries around and you need some way of doing it, there is another way. I'm gonna use the handle, but I have some rope over here. Now, this rope looks bad, but this is just some rust staining. The rope is actually in good shape, and this is some excess marine grade rope that I had laying around. It's about 3/8 or so diameter, and again, marine grade. It's actually really good shape. There's no, well, you can see the other end of it is coming apart a little bit, but it's a long piece of rope, so that doesn't matter what we're doing here. And this end was cut and melted and burned, so this end is good. And the rest, like I said, the rest of the rope is actually in good shape. So here's another way to do it. It's time consuming, but it works. So thread in here and pull quite a bit through. Okay, started here on and this orientation on the left side. Come over here to the right side. So you're crossing over. I do one-handed sometimes. Okay. Pull that through. Now back across. Probably see where I'm going with this. Back across, pull that through. Yeah, sorry, it's just coming out of frame here, and hard to do in one hand. Then, yeah, start to ravel a little bit. That's okay. Tuck this back through. There. And then back over. Now, just grab all your ropes like that. And it's not going to slip. And in some ways, that's not any less comfortable than using this thing. Okay, and then of course, once you move the battery, then you got to undo the rope, thread it on the next one, then rethread it, unthread it, rethread it. So that's going to take some time. And I say this rope, it's some marine grade stuff I had laying around. I want to say this particular rope is 120, 150 pound breaking strength, something like that. Of course, now it's times 4. So this is more than enough rope to lift a 70-ish pound battery. So this is another good way of having a nice, secure, stable hold, a hand hold on these heavy batteries, if you don't have the strap. So just a little side tip in case you need it. Now, I'll come back when these are out. Wish me luck. Okay, you know what? I think I'll do a quick pause here. Because yeah, these tie-down bolts, you will need to get that first row of batteries out before you can pull those out, because you just don't have enough room to move them around with those batteries in place. These were in, one was in the hook going forward, one was in the hook going backwards. I really don't see that makes a difference, because the hooks are just kind of sitting in center. So that's fine either way. Of course, it should be obvious, but you have to get the front 3 out before you can get the back 3, because you're going to have to come forward and out. So obviously that's going to be reverse. Putting the new ones in, you'll need to put the rear ones in first and the front ones. I mean, it may be painfully obvious, but you know, why not mention it? Okay, I haven't blown my back out yet. Let's get these next 3. Okay, back is still hanging in there. all those bad things are out. So now is the perfect time for more inspection, now that everything's out of the way. And I'm actually rather impressed that there's not really an appreciable rust on this frame. A little bit of, a lot of dirt buildup and some surface rust, but obviously that's just the least of my concerns. But I will spend some time here, and I will brush as much of that dirt off and clean up some of that rust as I can. And I'll probably go ahead and do a vice grip garage restore and just kind of restoration and go and clean this up. And actually, my last video, there are a couple that asked about the motor. So it's upside down, sorry, it's just the way it's mounted in the cart. Plumb quick. So it is a modified motor that's in here. And not just inspecting this battery frame, but be sure to also check all your motor connections. There's 2 here, 2 in the back. There's another motor that comes off center of the shaft, but that buries down into the harness. I'm not too worried about that one. I may trace that one down later just to make sure it looks good there. But the connection in the motor is not serviceable, so I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about that one. But I will double check and make sure those contacts are clean and tight, and then clean up this frame and do a little Krylon restore, and then we'll come back and see how she looks. All right, be back later. Okay, I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, a 1-hour job is one broken bolt away from being an all-day job. Yeah, we're there. So I started cleaning up this frame. Yeah, and nice. Okay, so good thing I inspected the frame. So the metal over here is really, really thin. It's kind of thin over here too. Actually, this whole middle section seems to be a little thin, and it's not because it's thinner metal. I mean, you can, obviously it's not going to come out in the camera, but you can feel parts of it are thinner than others. So right around here seems to be kind of the general area. I don't think I'm gonna be too worried about this section. It's all pretty solid. Seems pretty solid. I haven't found any other issues with it. Just a lot of rot. I mean, there's holes and a section missing there, and this middle rib has a section missing. So happens in my scrap bin. Piece angle. So that's what I get to do next, is cut and fit this piece of angle iron to reinforce that section. I already made measurements. There's plenty of distance to make up for the thickness of the angle, and I have to weld in. So I have to cut the angle iron, cut it to fit, and not just paint, but not really clean this up, do some weld through primer so I can make sure I don't get moisture trapped in between. And yeah, that's going to be a fair bit of work. So, okay, come back again when I have the piece cut and I'm getting ready to weld it in. All right, stay tuned. Okay, after a bit of work, and it's been a day or so later, I don't remember anymore. Reinforcements are in. And please not to try and judge my welds. I'm still learning. I'm not a professional welder. And even these welds are far from my best. I've welded way better than this. I was really struggling with this because I had good metal that was I was on the thicker side, and kind of rotten metal that was thin, and then trying to just really tack weld these in. Just good enough so they stay in place, because once the batteries are in, that's really what's going to hold these bars in place. The welds are just kind of need to be strong enough to hold them still and hold them steady. So please don't judge. So anyway, good enough is good enough, right? So I did. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. And paint's still drying. I'll start putting batteries in once he's dry, and I'll let you in on that once I get to that point. So I did, of course, cut the length and notch around the tie downs to hold the battery holder. And of course, that's the angle that I showed earlier. And I had a piece of this flat strap I put on this side. Not entirely necessary, but I started thinking about the tie down. And if I had the angle on one side and it's the regular structure on the other, then there would have been some angle to the dangle. So I wanted to be sure that the batteries were properly tied down. So this strap is the same thickness as the angle, just a flat strap. So what that means is the batteries on this side, on this edge, will be pulled up just enough so that hopefully this thing will lay flat and the batteries will be nice and secure. So that was just really the justification for that. But okay, that step done. That was a mess. Okay, then I'll bring you back around when I start putting the batteries back in. Alright, rear three batteries are back in. Again, making sure that you checked your orientation to your diagram. So I got all those back where they need to go. Oh, and backtracking a little bit. I know I didn't show any of the fabrication or welding. I just went straight to the finished product. Yeah, my fabrication and welding skills are decent, and this is actually not my best representation. And there are people out there who do way better at this stuff than me. So yeah, don't use me for an example. Use people who really, really know what they're doing. Of course, now this is the point where these need to go back in, because these need to be in place when you before you put the other batteries in, or you're never going to be able to put these in with the other batteries in place. And of course, I had my cut one and my uncut one, and make sure I get those back in their respective locations. Because obviously, remember I had my amplifier on this side, so make sure everything goes right back where it was. All right, let's get those last three in. Okay, there's all the batteries. Now, let's get them tied down. Okay. And now, install all these cables. Okay, there we go. All the batteries connections, they're all made. All the connections are coated in dielectric grease. Have the main connections back to being attached to the solenoid and the controller. I still have to put the lighting cables back in and tuck those back away. And of course, with these batteries, they also had the regular car style connections on them also, which the other ones didn't have. So, someday I may get a bunch of connections and, make some cables to kind of double up on the normal ones, because, it effectively makes the wires fatter and there's less resistance, although these are still good wires. Not necessary. I don't know, maybe something I'll play with later. But it's all connected. So, fire test. Yep. Sensing. Charger's coming up. Sensing the battery voltage. Huh. Okay. These batteries were pretty well full charge when I got them. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Sensing the charge and throwing it in. Which, of course, that'll start dropping pretty slowly as it detects the capacity in the batteries. No, nothing's sizzling, arcing, sparking, catching on fire. So, awesome. Okay, now let's finish putting all these wires together. And we're done. All the batteries are in the cart. So, debating now, do y'all really just want to prove this and drive the cart? It's, no. Quite honestly, that's being kind of pointless. This whole video is about changing the batteries. Obviously, they're new batteries. They're charging. The cart works. I don't have to prove that. So really, the whole point of this video was just to get these batteries charged or changed out and ready to go. Now, ideally, as far as brand new batteries, charge them, and then once they're charged, be a good time to double check the water in them. Although I did check them when I bought them, they are all filled the appropriate level. But one last check never hurts. Always check the water in your batteries, top off with distilled. And actually, that's something you need to check probably at least every 3 months. 6 months if you don't use it very much. 3 months if you're using it regularly. You want to make sure your water's topped off. And so once these are charged, check the water, do a little drive, top off the charge again. That'll help make sure everything's balanced out. And good to go. So yay, project is all done. So if y'all made it this far, thanks for watching. I don't normally ask if you like them, hit like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. YouTube's weird like that, and you have to have a minimum of 1,000 subscribers. Not that I'm trying to do a YouTube empire. I really don't care about that, but hey, a few extra bucks is a few extra bucks. I'm not going to turn that down. Anyway, all kidding aside, I hope you got something out of this. I hope this helps. If there's something else you wanted to see, now don't be afraid to ask. If enough people ask, I might make a video about it. And again, I hope this helps you, not even just golf carts, but with batteries in general, or whatever you think this might even help you with. Y'all have a good one.